Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Bold Badass Business Show. Have you missed me as much as I've missed you? I bet you have. It's been 2 weeks of holiday, and I am thrilled to tell you that today we have a guest who is going to blow your mind and actually stretch your mind into other galaxies with a cosmic message. Now, I want to tell you all, I met quantum energy facilitator Monica Bermudez on the Podcasters Cruise, and we became instant friends. Right, Monica?
Yes, very much.
We were like the woo-woo people on the
Feels like
cruise.
we knew each other for years,
Yes,
already.
I do believe we have.
Yes.
And I was so thrilled to have you there. And actually, you all, it's kind of funny because I was doing tarot readings throughout the Podcasters Cruise to raise money. I wanted to raise money for Independent Animal Rescue, my favorite organization. And so everyone who donated was saving 2 dogs from euthanasia. And Monica was like the goddess space holder. She was there at most of the readings I did, just holding a space of good, positive energy and a space of love. So today we are in for a treat. Monica has way too many credentials for me to even mention, but she has been doing this work for many years. And she, in fact, lives on Mount Shasta in California, which you know is a spiritual mecca. So, welcome to the show, Monica.
Thank you so much for having me here, Dr. Barnsley, and for making this a live broadcast for others as well, and sharing these cosmic messages that we're about to get into.
Yes. And hang on, I need to get my ET thing.
You're
I'm just
you're
kidding.
okay.
My
Your
little.
tinfoil. I do have an ET. Like, hold on a
Do
second.
you? Oh, let's put it on. Oh, there we go. I love that. That's hilarious. So today, we have so many interesting listeners, Monica, and some of them are more traditionally in business, and then some are in interested in metaphysical realm and
Mhm.
business as we are. And so the first question I want to ask you is, how did you get interested in quantum energy, and how did you get interested in the fact that we human beings may not be the only life in the universe?
So the quantum part of it is more scientific, right? I do have a scientific background, and it's in electrical engineering, and so I've always been fascinated by um, electronics and the boards and the science very much growing up. So that was nothing, new to me. It just felt like I was picking up from other lifetimes. And so that's where the whole quantum physics comes from in that space and having that, background. As far as like other beings from other life, growing up since I was little, I've always looked at the stars in the sky, and I always felt like that was home for me. Just like it felt like this nostalgic feeling, of me wanting to go back because I really didn't feel like I fit in anywhere here on this earth. And so every time I would look to the stars, I would say, "Can you take me home?" Like, but so I realized later on how much of a star seed and also like half galactic I was, very cosmic. So later on in life, that I started to really self-discover myself in different ways. How you go into these like different phases in life where you meet certain people or channelers or mentors,
Yes.
and they pick up on this, and then you also have your own intuition as well, right? You have a sense for some of the things why you may be feeling like different, but there's a knowingness that's inside of you as well, and I feel that connection is through the heart first of all. I do emphasize the heart a lot because that is the gateway to our soul, and it's our soul remembrance of who we truly are.
Okay, I'm
um,
going to pause you.
mhm.
Okay, that is profound, that our heart is the gateway. I want everyone to really take that in. Our heart is the gateway to who we really are and our remembrance of that. And
Mhm.
I love that. That's so beautifully put, Monica. And the scientific research, and to me, it's so fascinating that you're an electrical engineer. That's your
Mhm.
scientific background, and we are energy, we
Mm-hmm.
are energy. And we know from quantum physics that energy is the law of conservation of mass. Energy
Mm-hmm.
is never lost or gained. It just changes form. So
Exactly.
for those of you listening who may be thinking, well, this is really kind of weird, what we're from the stars. Well, let me just suggest something. You don't know where you're from, but I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you that your energy, according to science, is not going anywhere, in the sense that it's just going to transform. When you quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote die from this little rental car that we have in
Mm-hmm.
this lifetime, i.e., Barnsley Brown and Monica Bermudez, and those of you listening, when you die from that rental car, because really this body is just a rental car,
Mm-hmm.
your energy is going to shift and go somewhere else. I want to be a cat personally, Monica.
In your next life.
Yes, because I
Yeah.
want somebody to
Easier
clean up
life.
my shit. I want them to clean up my shit. I want to lay around all day and sunbathe. I want to be petted. I want people to massage me. When I'm irritated, I want to
Mhm.
just bite them and they're not going to think anything of it. That's what I
Yeah.
want.
As long as, they're in a good place, because then you have like animals also suffering in other places, right? As long as
I don't want to
you
be a
go
cat in the
to a
developing
rich
country.
home.
Let me just clarify. I don't want to be cat in China.
Right?
Did I say that?
or
Well,
or in places where they're mistreated, in other words.
yes, right. Where it is cat equals food, for instance.
Right.
And, we always hear those jokes about Chinese
Yes.
restaurants and the cats. Yeah, I'm okay. But there are plenty of places in the world where I
Hmm.
have seen some really horrible looking animals. And as an animal lover, I couldn't deal with it. So anyway,
Yeah.
Monica, when was the first memory that you have, like a specific memory where you said, "Oh, I'm really kind of not of this particular world. I'm here, but I'm really kind of from somewhere else." Is there a
I believe
particular
I've had that since I was little. So I can't really pinpoint like
Yeah,
exactly. Probably when I was getting into like my teens that I become more
yeah,
aware of the fact that I wasn't really fitting in anywhere, and
yeah.
definitely didn't feel so human, because it was just emotionally, for me, it was the emotional part of being human, was like I didn't really feel as much. Like I was pretty neutral, like when it came down to like how, um adjusting to my emotional body, I would say, as being a part of human. And also like how I would approach things, like in my studies, like I had a
Mhm.
different way of approaching it than anybody else. Like I didn't fit the societal norms.
Of
So
the electrical
and
engineer.
I still feel that, because I feel like even as an engineer, I didn't fit, because sometimes like people would have a hard time trying to figure out like certain problems, like really complex like equations, and I would get into this trance and I would write the solution down.
Mm.
And then people who were there be like, "How did you get that solution?" I'll be like, "I don't know." It's because I was
Okay,
like
you're
really
making me
tapping into.
think. Edgar Casey, the
Yeah,
Edgar Casey Center is in Virginia, just one state above from me, and I've been up there and done some
yeah.
interesting retreats with some of the people from positive psychology and metaphysical leaders in our world. And, he used to fall asleep on his books. All right. And those of you who don't, I know
Mhm.
some of you have heard of Edgar Casey. I'll put it over here so you can look this up. He was a very
Yeah,
renowned intuitive, what some
yeah,
people would call psychic, but I don't like that word because it sounds like, the we're going to call a 1-800 number,
yeah.
you
He
know.
was. I would say I would describe him more of a trance channeler. Like
He
he
was a
would go deep
medium too.
into like, yeah, medium, but he would be unconscious, right? Like he would
Yeah.
go tap into like this the unconscious type world. Like he had to have somebody next to him to take notes or make sure to
Yeah.
watch him, make sure nobody was like taking advantage of him while he was in this trance.
And he would fall asleep on his books when he was
Yeah,
studying, Monica. He would fall
yeah.
asleep on his books and literally he would wake up and he would know what was in the books.
Mhm.
I always prayed for that when I was in graduate school and it never worked for me.
Yeah, no. I think though, like for me though, like I feel like I'm a different type of trance channeler. Like the way trance channelers were before, where they would get into this almost sleep mode, just like Edgar Casey. All of
Mhm.
that shifting now was the new ones being born, the new ones coming in. There's like
Mm.
a new way of channeling, and you could do it consciously, being conscious of it. And so when I would get into these trance, like for those solutions, I was conscious, but I knew that I was in another dimension. I just didn't know like how the answer was coming through. Like I was still kind of like self-discovering myself, like in these trends. And so when people would ask me like, how did you get that answer? That's genius, solution, I would be like, I really don't know how to explain to you like the details behind, what went on. I just wrote whatever came through. It was almost like automatic writing,
Yeah.
have you heard of automatic writing?
Yeah.
But it was like automatic drawing also, like
Well, let's pause for a second. And for those of you who don't know what automatic writing is, just to, because there are going to be some people who are like, what's
yeah.
that? That's when you sit down and you just let whatever needs to come out of you, come out of you. And sometimes people will even use their non-dominant hand, because if you use your non-dominant hand, it actually takes you back to when you were a kid, and you'll just write out whatever and not edit yourself. And especially if you have something like a problem, you could say,
Mm-hmm.
well, how do I generate more clients in my business? And then just
Mm-hmm.
start writing and just
Pretty
go.
much. Yep.
But you have to not edit yourself. The whole thing is to really kind of breathe through your heart, like your heart energy center,
Mm-hmm.
which is right between the bouquets.
Yeah, it's
The
true.
bouquets. For the men here, it's between your, how do I say that for men? It's between your nipples. I don't know. You know what I mean. Okay, y'all.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of your chest. It's not, your heart is here on the left side, but your heart energy center is in the middle between the bouquets. All right, that's French for
Bouquets.
boobies. And breathe. If you breathe into your heart,
Mm-hmm.
then that takes you out of your head, out of the intellect, and you can ask a question and you can get a solution, which is what automatic writing is. Well,
Pretty much. That's how it
yeah.
was for me. Like the problems, it's really that's what engineering is. You get approached with problems, right? Which are equations. So that's really what happened literally is I knew the solution to the problem accessing the other dimensions. Because we are
And you didn't know how, and
multidimensional.
it didn't matter. And everybody else is like, how the hell does she know that?
Well, I wondered the same thing.
But I love it because, you're making me think about zone of genius. When
Yeah.
we talk about zone of genius, I've just been
Hmm.
reading that book about the zone of genius
Yeah.
by Jay Hendricks. And the zone of genius is a high vibe state. And when we're in a high vibe state, we begin to channel something. We
Yeah.
begin to channel from somewhere else. Maybe it's from a past time, maybe it's from
Yeah.
another dimension, another galaxy, but we begin
Exactly.
to channel information.
Yeah, I think there is a connection there with people who are considered to be genius, IQ, high
Hmm.
levels of IQ. Um, they're probably channeling this whole time, and not even realize that's what it really is. And then we use other terminologies right here on this earth.
Yeah. We say they're inspired.
Right, exactly.
Well, they didn't quite just get there. I mean, even Carl Jung said
Hmm.
that, the collective unconscious is huge. And it's like the
He's my
amalgamation of,
favorite psychologist.
yeah, like all of our thoughts, all of the things we focused on, the Ankh for the Egyptians, and people still love the
Yeah,
Ankh symbol. I do. The cross, the symbol for women, all the symbols that we focus on, and archetypes, that we focus on, like the hero, the archetype of the resurrection, Jesus being resurrected, all of these things
hmm,
we pour our energy to, and they begin to have a life of their own.
yeah, it's very true. And even like our dreams, though, you get like answers to your solutions. There is that, Carl Jung, he talked a lot about the dreams. And he first started out with Freud, the other psychologist, but then he separated from him when he started getting a little too wild.
And he was very deterministic. Freud was very deterministic and very
Yeah.
misogynistic, right? He was totally a misogynist. And the thing is that Freud, was all about, well, it's about the body, but Jung was very much, it's about the
Unconscious
spirit, the
level.
anima and the animus.
Yeah, he talked a lot more about the archetypes, especially about dreams, and like he started getting into like the symbolism. And there's a lot though to Carl Jung that I really like and appreciate. A lot of things that he said.
Monica, we're going to get into so much good stuff. I know. Those of you listening, do you want to hear about the dream I had about my dead brother really quickly? Who wants
Yeah, I
to
do.
hear? Who wants to hear? You better put a yes. Tell me about your dream with your dead brother. So I have dreams about my brother periodically. And by the way, you all, this is one of the ways that those who love us who've passed on into whatever you'd like to call it, heaven, the light, another form, because remember, law of conservation of mass energy is never lost, or what's the other word? Lost it. It just changes form.
It's
It never
transformed.
is
Yeah.
lost. Yeah, it just changes form.
Mm.
So I had this dream recently, and my brother was in it, and we were doing something, and I wanted him to win this prize, right? I wanted him to win a prize. That was what it was
Mm.
about. And you know how you need to write dreams down immediately or you forget them. And I didn't write it down, but I still remember the most important piece of the dream. And that is, it was about me admiring my brother, the same kind of feeling I had when I was younger than him and when he would sing in the boys choir, and I would just be so proud that that was my brother singing, right? And just this feeling of love and admiration for him. And what happened is at the end of this dream, guess what he did in the dream? The doorbell rang at
Oh.
3:30 in the morning. Now, he's done this before, and you all need to know that my brother and I were very mischievous, and we used to ring doorbells across the street from our house and run, and we would leave stink bombs. We'd leave stink
Oh.
bombs, and we go
Oh my
ring the
God.
bell and run. And so it's the perfect thing. But he rings the bell to let me know he's around, he's visiting, but he also rings the bell when there's a warning. And in this case, there was a warning about a family member. So
Oh.
I won't go into detail here because it's some clandestine information, that piece, but
Uh-oh.
it was a big warning about a family member that I really appreciate that he gave me that warning. So, Monica, back to you. You want to tell us a dream you've had with a dead person before we get back into our
Oh, I've
topic?
had several actually because I've been kind of like a cosmic medium, in a
Mhm.
way also. But
Yeah.
when I was little, I would see them very clearly, but then it scared me growing up. So then I shut it down. But
Yeah.
it didn't mean that they stopped visiting. They would come in my dreams and show up and talk to me. I think that is probably the best way for them to communicate with us without getting so scared, right? As you grow up, you kind of get
Right.
into this fear mode. But I think as a child, right, you're just so open, like,
Yeah.
it's like you're probably much closer to source, in that way. So there's like none of this other fear and doubt getting in the way. And so that's kind of where we're at, right? We go from child being fearless, not doubting, to like growing up and being fearful and doubtful of ourselves.
Yes,
And then
like
you
being
kind of
an
have to come back
adult.
into that childhood, like, I guess full circle, coming back to the childhood state, being
Mhm.
open to that, and being able to work with your own doubts, and all this other stuff. But that's a whole other story.
But
But so like me,
got
like
ET. Where's your ET? Put your ET up a second. Remember in ET, it was the kid who made
yeah,
the connection with ET, right?
that's true. You're
It was
right.
the kid, and everyone else was like, "Oh, that's so weird." And then he was the one who believed. He was the one. Oh, I'm getting chills as I
Oh,
say
oh my
that. So
goodness.
I think what you're saying about returning to that childhood state and the
Yeah.
wonderment and the openness and like not having all this shitty adult filters of
Yes.
I have to be a certain way. I have to live in my head, which is
Yes.
really a miserable place, by the way. And I have to be tough and I have to look out for number one, all this crap that we get socially scripted onto us. The kids are
Perception.
just
Yeah.
open and
Yeah.
see fairies, they see angels. I saw angels, they see invisible friends. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, so there's this whole perception and projection we get growing up also, right? So it's accumulation of many things that are unfolding as you grow up and all this other stuff.
yeah,
But so like, I remember very clearly seeing them like as a child. To me, it's like me looking at you, like that's how they looked, very clearly.
yeah.
And then like because I had kind of shut it down, I still felt them near me, but I wouldn't see them because I didn't want to see them. But then they would show up in my dream. And then
Mm,
sometimes when I had like friends, who had suddenly like passed away, like in an accident, I remember like one case of this friend who I had, he died in a bike accident.
Mm.
And so, it was very unexpected, right, for everybody. And so we were like all sad, most of our friends who knew him, but he showed up in my dream. And he said to me, "I'm doing okay. I'm doing well," which is
Come
like,
on. Don't cry for me, Argentina.
exactly.
Don't cry for me, Monica.
Exactly. So that's exactly what he said. So,
Okay, now you're
um,
making me think something wild, Monica. Okay, y'all, we are going to get to the secrets, but we have given you one secret for skyrocketing your business. If y'all haven't heard it, let me just break it down. We've given you the secret of returning to the mind of a child, like what they
yes.
call in Buddhism the beginner's mind. So when you have a problem, to go to the problem with the openness of a child and ask the question, how do I solve this problem? Before you go to sleep and receive the answer in your dreams, or ask the
Mm-hmm.
question, use automatic writing, ask the
Mm-hmm.
question, God, how do, and I like to say God because I want to bring in the energy of divine. So
Mm-hmm.
ask what you call God, if it's divine or creative
Mm-hmm.
energy or Allah,
Mm-hmm.
or Yahweh, ask, what do I need to know to solve this problem? And then start writing and don't stop. Just keep going for like 15 or
Exactly.
20 minutes and see what comes out. So that's the first secret, y'all. Right, Monica?
Yes, I like that very much.
We can give them a bonus secret. So we get all 5 that you planned. But see, this is how life is. We have these secrets, right? Monica has, because Monica, I love the fact that Monica is very mystical and she's grounded. Like, I think the only thing that should be flaky are biscuits.
I love biscuits.
I love biscuits. I had a biscuit at lunch. But the point
You're
being,
making me
like, I
hungry
can't
now.
stand it when we get these. Okay, can I rant for a second?
Go for it.
I can't stand when we get these people who are like, oh, I'm a guru, or oh, they have their, when they do Reiki, they roll your eyes back. Stop that, you all. It's weird. Stop. We're in
Yes.
a human body. We're like the connection of
Yeah.
the
Conduits.
cosmos and Mother
Mhm.
Earth.
Yeah, we
Anyway,
are electromagnetic, all the stuff that I studied in engineering school. I mean, it's really science mixed with mysticism and metaphysics. So there really isn't nothing new here or woo-woo about it.
it's
And
quantum physics. That's the
it's not
thing.
woo-woo, it's science.
I was so bad at physics class. I made a C, but I was fascinated by it because I would hear things that would show me, like the law of conservation of mass,
Mhm.
that there is not an afterlife, so to speak.
Yes.
Our lives never end. Our energy never ends. The law of conservation of mass. Energy is never
Mhm.
lost or destroyed. It just
Yeah.
changes form. And for me, that was
Yes.
like compelling scientific evidence
Yes.
that what people might call the solar essence,
Yeah.
that energy that is Monica, that energy that's Dr. Barnsley, that shit ain't going anywhere when our bodies
Mhm.
fail. I mean, it's going somewhere, but it's not disappearing, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was an article I just posted on my Facebook where
Mhm.
quantum physics scientists are finding how death is an illusion. And that's really what the article title said. Death is an illusion, and that they found the proof that we're just transforming energy pretty much, which is what quantum physics is, like
Okay. Okay. Now we're getting wild because there is a community, and I know you know the name of it, and I can't think of it right now. It's up in I think New Hampshire, and it's a mediumistic community. It's a whole community of mediums, right? Who
Mhm.
are able to communicate with those who have passed on. And what they've measured, and they've also done this, by the way, at the Duke Rhine Center, RHINE, which I've done some work there. I've been in some studies there. The Duke University, y'all, just for those of you who are like, well, that's way out. No, this is at Duke University. Look it up, y'all. Look it up, people.
They're
And
okay.
they've shown, all right, that when somebody dies, they weigh the body right before they die, and then they weigh the body afterwards. And guess
Oh,
what? The body's lighter.
interesting.
Like that energy has a weight.
Yeah, so maybe that's why we have this weight issue too. I do feel
I have a weight issue because I love to eat. I'm fat and happy and I love to eat. Who else is that way? Just put a yes in the
Oh, I
comments.
love to eat too.
I love it. That's one of the best things about being in a human body is that we get to eat. We
Well,
get
but
to have
they say
sex.
that
We get
that
to walk.
fat is energy, right? Doesn't science say that too?
Yeah,
Right? So we're
yeah.
pretty much like basically mostly energy. Like
Well, I think for those of us who are empathic, we take on a lot of energy from other people. And I think sometimes having the extra weight, I know for myself, is like a protection. It's kind of a protection. And it
it
also
is.
is energizing because you give a lot of energy to other people, Monica. That's what I loved about you is you just like transmit energy. I do the same thing kind of in a
Mhm.
different way, but I do the same thing and transmit. I give a lot of
Mhm.
energy. And so we got to replenish that.
Yeah, definitely. And also protect, and that's what a lot of things that I learned growing up as well, because I was always emanating energy, but didn't realize that I was doing that, how much I was doing that. And I was giving more than I was like receiving. And so, that brings us back to our number two, I would say, learn how to balance those two energies,
Mm.
giving and receiving. Because
So
for
giving
me,
and receiving is the next
mhm,
secret to learn how to balance those. I
yes.
love that. Tell us
Yeah,
more.
because like I want to say though that receiving for me was the hardest thing for me. Like
Mm,
even like when I was getting into business, I really had to heal that in me, because how when you charge, there's an exchange of like energy, right? When you're working with a client and so forth. And so for me, it was always about just giving. And people would always come to me and confess all these things. I would never have to ask them, like, tell me the truth about yourself. People would just come and share like these hidden
mm.
truths. And they're like, and then when they leave, of course, I will be the one carrying like
You be
those
processing their crap.
pretty much. I'm like, what just happened? Like, but so I realized then later on that it was the receiving part on myself also, like allowing myself as well to give that healthy boundary, that's part of the receiving, but also being able to receive a compliment, being able to receive an exchange and value of like, and it all ties back to your self-worth as well, what are you worthy of yourself, and there was a lot of these things that were like intertwined that I had to like detangle, pretty much like a hair that's like all tangled,
Well, you know what? That is so important that there be an energy exchange. And I would say to relate this to business, okay,
Mm-hmm,
in
mm-hmm,
the Reiki realm, because those of you
mm-hmm.
listening know that I have practiced Reiki for what, 30, 30, 30, good Lord, 33 years.
Yeah, yeah,
1992. I can't believe that. And I've taught it for 31 years.
that's
And here's
amazing.
the thing. I know, right? Thank you, God, for Reiki. Thank
Yeah,
you for the car
and you
accident.
do amazing work with the Reiki, by the way.
I love
I,
it. Thank
just
you.
like
Oh,
watching you like on those tables, working with others, I'm really amazing.
and we send out the Reiki to all of you listening, by the way. We always, before the Bold Badass Business Show, we always do a prayer and send out energy. And I don't know, maybe I'm the only person who does that with their guests, but I've never had anybody say you're cuckoo. Everybody, you just put in your own word. If you want to call it God,
Mhm.
you want to call it energy like the
Oh, I
physics.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what you're making me think about? It's so important in business for us to let there be an exchange of energy and not to make beggars of our customers. And Dr.
Mhm.
Usui, the founder of the Usui Reiki system, said, don't make beggars of others, right? In other words, if we think that we have to give something without receiving anything, we've basically told somebody that they have nothing to give.
Yes.
And this is not healthy.
No, it's not. That's what I mean by healthy boundaries,
Yeah,
Like it could
we
be
get
taken
to
many different levels.
receive. So we get to receive. I love that. So their second secret is balancing giving and receiving in your business. And gosh, there's so many things. We could just talk about this, Monica, because so many people in
Mhm,
businesses do everything. They juggle everything. They don't get a
mhm.
VA. They don't get a tax preparer, at least at the beginning. The people I work with, I make them do that. But the point being that they're trying to do everything. And so it's always this energy going out, and there's not energy coming in to replenish them.
Yeah, that's true about asking for help, you mean? Yeah, and that's something that I struggle with as well, and I become aware when I start doing it, and it's like I have to remind myself usually, it's like, okay, ask for help. It's like when I was trying to, like, I get snow here in the mountain, by the way. I live in California. It doesn't mean that I'm in
Tell
warmth
them
all
where
the
you
time.
live.
So,
Not past it. So cool.
so anyways, we got snow one time, and I was trying to really like shuffle or like really like force my car out, but then I realized, okay, it's too much snow. Maybe I should ask for help. I couldn't even ask for help for like someone, right, to come and plow it.
Mhm.
But that's what I mean. You have to keep reminding myself that ask for help.
Right. And in business, here's how that can look. It can be um, to your source, God, your source, whatever you call that energy. What do I need to do next? And who can help me? Because if we think we have to learn another thing, we have to go learn a course, we have to go do this before we can do the work that is really ours, which is our zone of genius, to connect it to what we were talking about before. If we think we have to do all this other stuff, we'll never get to our zone of genius.
Yeah, it's true. Or getting the things done that you want to get done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You had to say that, Monica. So I have way too many projects. And, I have realized recently the power of focus, you all. A laser cuts through steel, a searchlight just goes like this over everything, and they use the same amount of energy, but the laser cuts through steel. That's focus.
Yeah, very
So,
nice.
Monica, what is the third secret for intergalactic growth in your business? Or the
Well,
yeah.
let's talk about the law of attraction,
Mm.
the cosmic energy, the universal energy, that flows through us. Um, so with that, it's all about like our internal process inside of us, what we're saying to ourselves at a subconscious level and even at a conscious level. If we're putting ourselves down, then the energy is going to match that externally. Um, it's almost like an input and output. And they use those terms a lot in engineering. So, but really, it's about our input to ourselves and what we're saying to ourselves. Um, there's some childhood phrases, right, that we probably grew up with that were engraved, and we don't realize that those are actually becoming our mantras. And like, and they turn into vows as well, like, so reprogramming the self,
Oh, wait, let's
to,
pause. This is some genius. And by the way, everyone, I'm going to let you know that we're expecting a big snowstorm here in North Carolina, and my electricity is flickering, which might be some visitors. And
yes.
it might also be that we're going to have an energy outage. If that happens, you all, if that happens, what will we do, Monica? We'll come back on.
Well,
we'll,
everybody will
we'll
be in
have another
suspense. It's free.
episode. We'll have another episode. I'll send you a self message. But, we're
Yes.
going to have a big snowstorm here. Maybe, are you going to have one in Mount Shasta? That's pretty far from us. I think it's only on the East Coast.
No, it's your turn to get the snow. We already had
Y'all got
ours.
all the fires over there. Bless your hearts. Could we please send good energy to Los Angeles, everyone? Could
Yes,
we
please.
pause and just do that?
Oh, let's do that. Yes, I love that. Listen,
Everybody, let's
and
just send energy, prayer, energy, love. Focus on the people in California and just surround them with the beautiful white light of protection, because these fires are no joke.
mhm. Yeah, we could focus like on some of the elements that they rebalance themselves, and that
Yeah,
they bring in rain, and that things to just like ease the flames, and that everybody be safe.
yeah. Let's see rain coming down, snow, rain, any kind of sleet, wet
Hmm.
precipitation coming down all over. And just like, the universe, like the earth is crying and putting
Hmm.
out the fires, and we'll see all the fire women and firemen just being protected, and the resources there for people to evacuate easily and to just stay calm and be surrounded by all their spiritual support of the light.
Yes. Now, when I do tune into this, I do see a lot of dragons around, but these are like elemental type dragons of the
Mhm.
different elements. I see the earth dragons and the water dragons,
Mm,
also like the fire dragons, but I see them like calming the flames.
mm,
Um, and then you have the air dragons as well, calming the winds, you know.
mm.
Um, so this is usually what I see whenever I tune in to this area. And because I've been doing daily meditations and visualizations to, assist, and I asked the group as well, to contribute in that way. So I just wanted to share that because in case, that um, you're tuning in, but that's what I'm seeing.
And I'm really glad you said that about the dragons, because the dragon, as one of Jung's symbols, it is a symbol in Carl Jung's work, is the dragon. And in fact, I mean, it's a symbol in so many cultures. If you look in the dictionary of symbology, everybody listening, and you just look up dragon, you'll be pretty amazed at what you hear. But it's like a transformative energy.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, on my Reiki certificates that I give to people, there's a dragon, a fire dragon.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So I love that you're bringing up dragons. And, you know, for the people who are listening to this and they're like, wow, they're getting really out there. Let me just say something. Our lives are stories, right? The way we think about our lives as stories, think about it. What did you do today? When you have lunch with someone, what did you do at the end of the day? What did you do today? And we tell a story. And really, symbols, it's a way of interpreting information. And so when we are actually tuning in to other knowledge, then it often comes in the form of images. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
come usually. Sometimes I'll have information come as a word or
Mm-hmm.
a sensation, but
Mm-hmm.
most of the time it's going to come as an image. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to see an image, and then I'm going to ask, well, what does that image really mean? What does it represent? To
Mm-hmm.
understand it. So I love that. So the fire dragons, and we need the water dragons. Water dragons, please come on in.
Yeah, there's the water dragons that I see as well, and they're bringing in, that water manifesting somehow is going to manifest itself because the more of us who also come together and work with these energies, that's why I'm sharing it too, so that others can also visualize that and see them. So that because we have the power as well, the power is calling back the power to the people.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize how much, strength and power we have. And so that is part of like, this conversation about energy when you're giving energy leak and, you know, the giving and receiving type, the balance of things, it all just relates to everything we do in life, not just business, right?
And it's not supernatural. I just want to say that this is
Mm-hmm.
not supernatural. Think about it. If those of you who read the Bible, they parted the Red Seas, okay? Or the burning bush. Think about it. There are elements that are part of our planet and part of the universe. There are elements. We get meteors burning and then crashing, or we get a big flood or a hurricane or tornado, or right now a big snowstorm here on planet Earth. But
Mm-hmm.
how many galaxies are there, people? How many are there?
Billions.
There are billions. I mean, do they even know? They don't know.
They don't know. They just estimate billions. And then you talk about the multiverse, which now a lot of scientists are talking about. I was watching this evidence of science where they were talking about how it's an infinite loop. Like it looks like a donut, like the way they describe it. So
Mhm.
anyway,
Donuts.
I know it made me hungry too.
Now, I love the multiverse. I love that you're bringing that up, because there's the most interesting guy. He's dead now, but from this skin suit. But Bernie, what's his last name? And he does quantum jumping. He teaches
Mm-hmm.
people about quantum jumping. And so
Mm-hmm.
I want y'all to listen, those of you who have your own business or are thinking of your own business, when you get stumped, we've been talking a lot in this episode about how do you deal with problems, right? In your business and use intergalactic secrets to solve
Mm-hmm.
those. Really think about it. When
So
you
that's
have
number 4 then.
when you have
This
an issue,
quantum
just
jump.
send yourself over, like go over to the person over in another galaxy we don't even know the name of, or we don't even know, just send yourself out there as
Yeah.
an emissary and bring back the information.
Yeah, exactly. That is quantum jumping. So I would say that's number 4. Number 3 was really the reflection of our inner world to the external world, which you could
Ooh,
also say is law of attraction.
the reflection, that's deep. Okay, hold on. Okay. The reflection of our inner world to the outer world, like the outer world is going to reflect back to us what we are telling ourselves
Yes, yes, which is
about
another
ourselves,
word.
about our life, about our business.
Yeah, if you want to simplify it, just call it law of attraction.
Well, I don't want to call it that because you know why? Okay, I could go
Mhm.
on another rant
Yeah,
because there's a lot of different people who interpret the law of attraction,
it's
uh,
true.
and they interpret it
Just
as, oh, you just visualize a car and it will come to you. No,
yeah, you're right, because I feel it's kind of been watered down a little bit,
yeah,
and
it's
it
been
gets
pissed on.
too fluffy, like it's you forget to ground and you're kind of up in the
Yeah.
clouds, and then you're not here on earth. So it doesn't really work like that. It's really that's why like I like to phrase it differently and call it like the reflection of the inner world to
Mm-hmm.
the outer world, and it goes vice versa to each other. The outer world reflects the inner world for us. So
And guess what? It's a principle of transformative leadership, transformational leadership, which is I am responsible. I am
yes,
fully responsible for
accountability.
everything
Hmm.
in my life. And that's a really
It's so
interesting
true.
stance.
Because
Like,
there's still like so many people who still blame the external world. They blame
yeah,
people or they blame situations. They
yeah.
blame the government.
They blame their parents.
I mean,
Blame mom.
I
My
can go
mom
on
didn't
with a
pick me
list,
up from
but
preschool, and now I have to go to a counselor every week. No.
yeah, so so there is, this whole victim mindset type thing. But my whole thing is alchemizing, because I also say alchemy, which is transformation, in other words, but really alchemize the victim mindset into the creator, because that is what we are, co-creators, along next to God, like you were saying, whatever you want to use for God, but the source of all that is, that we all have this connection with that all that is. And I have a very, very strong relationship with God since I was little. I've
Mm-hmm.
always had conversations directly with God, and I always got answers like right away, like
Neil Donald Walsh,
Mhm.
Conversations with God, you know, um, he kind of
Yeah.
went from being homeless to just bringing all that information in. And A Course in Miracles is also channeled, and there are people who talk about the
Hmm.
Bible as being channeled, like the wisdom of Source channeled through human beings.
Yeah. So that could also be another source of the genius, the trans channel and the connection as well. Um, so yeah. But
How do
so number
people get
4,
into trance, Monica?
huh?
Like, is there a simple way you could give the listeners that they could kind of, trance? Some people are going to think, oh, that's weird, but could
Hmm.
get into a state of
Yeah.
receptivity.
The best one for me has always been meditation, because I grew up meditating also, since I was little. So I found that it's become like a natural state for me when I get into these like meditative state, because for me it's a two-way thing. It's a giving and receiving as well when you meditate. So when you are in a meditative state, you use that power of visualization, right? You envision an outcome or something that you envision yourself around the light or protection. Just giving examples, could be different things, right? Or requests for something, like could be prayer. You could combine prayer and meditation. All of
Mhm.
that to me is transmission. That's the giving, right? And then for receiving, though, allowing yourself a moment of silence, and you could just focus on your breath, and then just like complete stillness, and just trying to be as still as possible, and some people in meditation, they use like a blank screen. They use like different tools and methods. But for me, like also like breath work also brings you in that presence, and just keeps you there in that stillness. Just surrendering.
I'm very much a doer, but my doing comes out of being because I start every day with Reiki. And Reiki was really the thing, doing the self-treatment every morning for all these years is really the reason. Like people say, you have so much energy, you're in the flow. It's because of that. And so whatever your spiritual practice is, even if it's just sitting and putting your hands on your heart energy center and breathing, is great. And you can even put yourself in a state of self-hypnosis, really by looking up. What you do is you look up, right? And you breathe.
I do that a lot actually when I do get into that state. And I wonder why that was, because it's like, and people are like, well, why aren't you looking at my eyes? But it's like, because I'm in this trance mode. But have you ever seen, like, I have a picture over there, a Maha avatar, Baba Ji, but a lot of these avatars, right? If you look at his picture, he's looking up.
Yes.
I don't know if I had the picture, it's kind of like, I can't reach it right now. I will show you guys.
And think about it. When you look at all the great paintings from the Italian masters, for instance, of Jesus, right?
They are looking up. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Really interesting. Yeah. And I've seen
Oh, look, Mel's here. Hi, Mel. Mel is a cosmic wild woman. You got to go back and listen to this episode, Mel.
Oh, I know.
Holy moly, we've gone wild. So we've talked about dreams with the dead. We've talked about
everything.
Intergalactic secrets. Oh gosh, it's about time for us to wrap, Monica. And I want to be respectful of your time because I know you have another show or meeting to do. And so we covered 4 of the secrets. What is the 5th secret? After the reflection of the inner creates the outer, or the outer reflects the inner. You worded it differently. What was your wording again?
Oh, the inner reflection is the inner world is a reflection of the outer world. Yeah. I have to write things down the moment that they come as an inspiration. So otherwise it'd be kind of hard to get back into that, to remember what I said sometimes.
All right, I just put it up there.
Thank you.
The inner world is a reflection of the outer world.
Yeah.
And I would also say the outer world reflects the inner world because we're going to see according to our filters. It just makes sense. And we're going to draw to us experiences that are there for whatever energy we are in, whatever energy state we're in. Have you ever noticed that when you're in a really negative mode, then somebody is there and they're like bitching and moaning about something? And whenever you're on a high vibe, you suddenly meet new people who are interesting and filled with energy. So what's number 5, Monica?
Well, did you get the number 4 was the quantum jumping?
Oh, right. Number 4. Oh, we gave them a bonus at the beginning. Y'all had a pre number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number 4 is the quantum jumping we talked about, like letting problems in your business and life be solved by sending an emissary to another dimension and then bringing back the info. I love that.
Which plays into the trance and the hypnosis that we were just talking about, being able to surrender and receive, which is, So anyways, all of these
surrendering. What are we surrendering when we surrender, Monica? I want to hear what you think. What are we surrendering? I have my idea.
We're receiving. We're allowing ourselves to receive, because sometimes when we try to control a situation, like something's not happening, but we're doing everything in our power, right, to really want to make this happen. And so we keep doing different things and, but still nothing is happening. So that means that it's time to just let it go.
And actually, we could just not waste our time. We could just start with surrender.
Yeah, pretty much surrender. But the number 5 thing, though, that I want to say, can I say it?
Yeah, do it.
This is a really big one, actually. And that is really shifting your perception and looking outside the box.
Now, what box are we looking outside of?
Our own mental limited mindset.
Mm. Oh God, I just wrote shit instead of shift. Let me correct that.
It's all the same though, you know?
Yeah, sometimes our perception is shit. Shift your perception outside of the box. I'm putting this into the chat because I think it's cool. Outside of the box of your limiting beliefs, thoughts, what else? Ideas, whatever.
Yeah.
And how can you give everybody just one practical way that we can shift instead of sitting in the shit?
Yeah. So for me, though, it's always been about connecting to nature because when I feel like I'm in this space where I don't feel creative, right? I feel like that writer's block, for instance, like if you're into writing, and I go outside and just like sit outside by a tree and all of a sudden just allowing that energy of that tree to come in, all of a sudden this sparks this creativity. That's
Mm-hmm.
one. The other one that I found is dancing.
Disco, disco.
So have you ever done ecstatic dancing?
Oh yes, I have, and
I
I've
just
done
tried it for the
improv
first
dancing.
time. I was like hooked on it, you know? Like
I love the name too. I mean, I
yeah,
don't think what I went to was considered ecstatic. I mean, like it wasn't called that, but it was like a improvisational dance thing, and people were
yeah.
just. It was cool.
But that's all it is, really. It's improv is, what you just said,
Improvisational.
improvisational, like, yeah. But just improvising your dance mode, to whatever is coming out of you, really. And then the music, the setting of the music also just has a really great impact as well because the type of music they were using was almost like shamanic,
Oh
so
yeah, like flutes. Okay, I want to show everybody something. Hang on, you all. Hang on. Because what you said about nature, I was thinking about this. Now, you all, when you're working in your business, you don't even have to like. I definitely want a waterfront, oceanfront property. Okay, I'm real clear on that. I can see it. That's where we're going to be writing. We're going to have retreats, Monica.
yay,
So much fun, and we're going to drink bubbly out there after
I
the
can't
retreat.
wait.
We're doing that. All right, it's happening. I was just looking at some listings earlier, but while that isn't there, it's there in my head, okay?
Mhm.
And ideas become eventually reality if we hold them long enough and continue to put the good energy on them. But
Mhm.
they were doing a fundraiser at the spa where I go for facials twice a month. And guess what? I was like, oh, this painting is done by one of the girls who went to that institute. It's the Veda Institute, where also my daughter is studying. And by the way, she made a 94 on her first test. Yay, Zelia.
Hey,
I have to shout out
congratulations.
to my daughter. It was her first test today, and she made a 94 out of 100. I'm so proud of her. Anyway,
Yeah.
look at this. So I got this. I said, oh my God, I love that. And for me, it's like the floor I love. I love the
Mhm.
looking out there, the sunset. And
Yeah.
I keep it down here so that when
A
I
reminder.
be in nature, I just look over.
Yeah, so it's like your vision board,
It
right?
is. It is. It's not even framed. I just have it down here where I can see it because I have way too much art already. So, Monica, you have given us so much to think about. And I really hope that those who are listening are considering intergalactic in a new way now, because truthfully, we are energy and energy is all around us. And yep. And we're ET, right? And some of us don't feel like we belong here. I'm just like you, where we started at the beginning. We don't feel like you feel a little different, right? Um, but there's a reason why every single one of us is here on the planet right now. There is. And I know
Yes.
that you have something wonderful to give everybody. This is the exciting time in the Bold Badass Business Show where we give you something. Would you tell us really quickly what you want to give everybody?
So I have light language transmission. I am a channeler of light language using different sounds and energy codes. So it's on my website. There's a free giveaway there. So if anybody wants to sample it and try it out, but it's really to help us get in alignment to some of these new frequencies that we're receiving. A lot of cosmic frequencies, on a constant basis, we're being bombarded. So that's part of the reason why we're going through all these major changes and feeling more called, to our heart, to a higher purpose. And I see that and feel that so many other people are getting that calling. They're saying the jobs that they have now is shifting. So that's scary. So with these transmission,
That's
that's how
exciting.
it's exciting, but it could be scary for some people because they don't know like where it's coming from or how to even like start or begin, in something. It was scary for me actually coming out in public for different reasons because I have been persecuted in past lives and I had to heal a lot of that of the witchiness, labeling and the projection and all this other stuff.
Yep.
And
I know it very well.
so that's why it was scary for me, coming out in public, the way I am now speaking here live with you.
Yeah, we're just like putting it out there. Let's quantum jump. Everybody ready?
Yeah, but we're all ready for this, which is why there's so much more that is opening up right now.
Yes.
So listen to your heart, tune in, listen to these steps, and they are very, very powerful.
And the divine feminine, if we come back to Carl Jung, I just keep wanting to bring him in. Anima and animus, the feminine and the masculine side of each person. Well, the divine feminine energy is coming in now. And we're seeing things like on Netflix, the wonderful documentary, Mary. About,
yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
It was great. And I love that. I mean, gosh, she was only like 12 or 13 when she became pregnant, with what we call the Immaculate Conception, but just being open to new ways of being. And rational thought is often associated with the masculine, whereas intuition and receptivity are associated with the feminine.
Yeah.
And I think if you all want to take a big message from today, it's about really tapping into the side of yourself that is cosmic, that is intuitive.
Be in your heart. That is where God resides. It's in your heart. It is God within. And it's always about connecting to source, whatever you want to call God.
About heart math. There's so much we could talk about. The science of the heart.
Yes.
The brain and the heart. There are more telomeres in the heart and the gut than in the actual brain up here.
Yeah.
Everything that Monica has brought up and that I've mentioned too today is about the science piece, So everybody, I forgot to give you, I did put it in the chat, but where can you get Monica's wonderful, say the name again, Monica? The light transmission, what's it called?
It's called the 5D Quantum Alignment on my website.
Okay, so we're going to put it into the Freebie Vault. I have to sing that. The Freebie Vault of the Bold Badass Business Show, which you all, I'm super proud of because there are thousands and thousands of dollars of gifts. You need to jump right in there, quantum jump right in there and grab Monica's wonderful offering because it's going to blow your mind. Like I hope this particular episode has. It's been so much fun. You can see why I love Miss Monica. She's like my sister from another mister in another planet, or E.T. Here's our prop. It's our brother.
That's my brother, my sister, my star family, our star family. They're all, yes.
I think about Robin Williams with the Nanu, right?
And, yeah, I do.
Yeah. What a great show.
That's a good one, yeah.
Loved him. Grew up with that show. So you all go to bit.ly/free from Dr. B, which is DRB. Let me repeat it, https:// Put your little secure thing at the beginning like you do on all the secure websites. bit.ly/free from Dr. B, DRB. Go on in there, especially look at our incredible, bold, badass business sponsors who are at the top. And I'm going to be recruiting Miss Monica to be part of that elite group. You do
Yay.
not want to miss all their incredible offerings. And then scroll on down to the people who aren't sponsors, but they're great too.
Yes.
Seriously, scroll on down because there are tons of incredible episodes. Some are more pragmatic, more practical on things like SEO, search engine optimization. Some are more on practical in terms of turning your book into 17 streams of income. And some are more way out. Oh my God, we have 20 seconds, Monica. So I just have to tell you, you are amazing. Love you. You gave us so much. Thank you for coming. And would you give us one final word in 2 seconds?
I just want to say thank you so much for listening, and I love you all.
We'll see you next week on the Bold Badass Business Show.